We are here with James Woodruff. He's running for sheriff of Troup County, and he's the incumbent. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Kendall.
You've been in office for 12 years.
Correct.
Could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in Troup County my whole life. I went to Troup High School, married. Matter of fact, next week is my 30th anniversary to my wonderful wife, Sharon.
Congratulations.
I've got 3 kids, 6 grandkids. I've got a vested interest in this community. I've done over 30 years at Troup County Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
I've served the citizens of Troup County for over 30 years, and I can get in maybe later to some of my different positions, but I've done just about every position that you can possibly do at the sheriff's office, from jailer all the way up to chief deputy before I ran for sheriff in 2012. So when I go and see my people and say, I know what you're going through, I know what you're going through because I've done that job myself.
Oh wow! I did not realize that. What originally motivated you to run for sheriff?
I've always wanted to serve the people of Troup County. When I got into law enforcement, again, it was as jailer. I worked in the jail. I was a supervisor in the jail. Then I went to the police academy in 1987, became a certified deputy, and just serving people in the community, going to calls, trying to make their life better. Because when they call law enforcement, they can't fix their problem themselves. And so we go out there, and it might be mediation, it might have to be an arrest, it might have to be separation, but trying to make people's lives better, trying to serve the people. That's my whole thing about being a sheriff. It's just serving the people of Troup County.
Well, that made me think of how do you handle the mental health crisis? Across our country, it's more and more prevalent. So how do you handle that on calls versus making an arrest?
Well, our officers are trained in CIT, critical incident training, where they can deal with people that are having excited delirium episodes or something, and you want to handle those people a certain way. You just can't rush in and throw them on the ground and put handcuffs on them unless your life or somebody's life's in danger. So all of our officers are trained in CIT training to be able to handle those people because, unfortunately, any sheriff will tell you in any county, the jail seems to be the dumping ground. If you're homeless, if you're on drugs, or if you've got mental problems, when there's nowhere else to put you, put them in jail. And what usually happens, Kendall, is they get put in jail for a crime. They sit there, they go to court, they get sentenced, they do their time, they get out, they don't have any resources to go to. They commit a crime, they get put in jail, they sit there, they go to court, they do their time, they get out, and it's a vicious cycle. One thing that I'm very proud of is we have just partnered with Calumet Center, and not only are we partnered with them, but January 1, we had a new health facility take over our jail, Southern Health Partners. We have a full-time mental health counselor on staff through them Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if any inmate has a mental health crisis, we no longer have to take them out. We can handle that right there at the jail. Plus, partnering with Calumet Center, that's going to be even more enhanced to getting people down there to talk with people that need help and need counseling and trying to get rehab set up and things like that.
What is Calumet Center, for those that don't know?
Kelly Kemp runs it, and it's kind of like a treatment facility.
A nonprofit?
Nonprofit for usually, I think women go over there. So I'm not going to say where it's at. It might be private.
Right.
But it's usually for women. That's who they minister to. I let women minister to women, men minister to men. But that counselor that's on duty there with the Southern Health Partners, she handles both men and women.
Okay. Very good. It's great to see our nonprofits making a real difference in our communities.
Absolutely. And we've got to come up with a different solution. Just locking them people away is not a full-time solution. We'll go from 400 to 500 to 700 to 800. And where do we stop? Where do we stop at 2,000, at 3,000? And so I want to be a sheriff that's proactive. We'd like to talk, if we have time, about the reunification room that we have in the sheriff's office. And that's a room that we converted after I was approached by Judge Key and DFACS and West Georgia Counseling about moms and dads that are in jail and they have kids in DFACS custody. And these are not charges like gang charges where you're going away for the rest of your life, but these are misdemeanor charges where you're going to eventually come back home. Let's keep that bond strong between that child or those children and that parent. So we've got a room that all the furniture was donated, the toys were donated, the books were donated. There's a changing table for babies, and the DFACS worker brings the child down, and they get an hour-long visit. That way, that bond stays strong, so that when mom goes back home or dad goes back home, they're not a stranger. And I believe in building those bonds and not just locking people away. That's for some people, they've done heinous things like murder or something real bad. They've got to be locked away. But there's so many people in our jail that just need a helping hand, a hand up, some counseling that they got to want it.
Right.
I meet with parents every day that says my son or daughter needs counseling, and I agree. But until they want it, they're not going to benefit from it.
Right. Right. The
Excuse me.
what is the capacity of the jail right now?
Around 600. When we built that jail in 1995, the capacity was 240. Let me back up if you will give me a minute.
So are we over capacity?
I started, no.
Okay.
I started when the jail was uptown beside the courthouse,
Okay.
when the capacity was 32. We decided to build that jail on Sam Walker Drive on 240. And our intention was, what we're going to do is put our little 32 down there, and then we're going to rent out the rooms to these big metro counties and make some money. If you've ever seen that movie, The Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come.
Oh, no.
We built it, and 240 people showed up, and we ended up filling it up. When I took office in 2013, I completed Pod C, which was already under construction, where we moved our females and our elderly, our fragile people that are in jail, and our inmate workers stayed back there in that one. And that increased our capacity to 600. Right now, I'm happy to say we run about 500. So we're there. Now, during COVID, when the courts were shut down for 2 years,
Right.
we were way close to 600 because we couldn't have court and you couldn't have jury trials. So everybody was just sitting in jail. But with the help of the courts and with the help of my staff, which I have a wonderful staff of men and women that dedicate their lives every day to the county,
Right.
helping with the COVID crisis was horrendous at the jail. But we only had 77 positive cases, and we were able to get those people separated. And we used the annex, which used to be the prison up on the hill, to help separate those sick inmates from the well inmates. Because as you know, when people come to jail, they have to be classified based on what their charges are. You can't put a 17-year-old in there with a murderer.
Okay.
So you've already got to keep them separated that way by charge. Then you got to separate them by gang. Otherwise, they're going to beat each other up. Then on top of that, we had to separate the sick ones from the well ones during COVID. So we had a triple thing going on. And we were able to use some of the room up at the jail annex, is what I call it now.
So you know which gang the people are in that are arrested? Did they admit to that?
When they come to jail, we ask them, are you a member affiliated with a gang? And if they say, no, I'm not in a gang, as soon as they get to the back, those people know it. So we tell them, you can tell us now, or we'll know it in a few minutes, because about 10 minutes later, they'll come up the hall and somebody will have jumped on them. So we say, Kendall, be honest. If you're in a gang, tell us, and we can put you with other gang members that you're part of and keep you safe. But if you say no and go to the back, the test will come shortly because you'll be coming back up the hall to medical.
What do you think, what strategies are most effective in reducing crime in our county?
Well, I think just not putting people in jail, just locking people up, but I think it's a community-wide thing. Just like with our gang problem, it's not something that law enforcement can fix on its own. It's going to take churches, it's going to take civic clubs, it's going to take communities to come together. It just can't be on the backs of local law enforcement to go out and fix this drug problem or go out and fix this gang problem. It's going to be a community problem. It's a community problem, and it's going to have to be a community answer.
I totally agree with that. And I've been interviewing a lot of school candidates as well. And I think it's critical that our schools are where they need to be and that we're seeking excellence and we're doing wraparound services and we're doing everything that we can in the school system and with our youth, because the future of our community is our youth now is the future.
Absolutely.
And so that's so critical. And with you saying that, how many families do you actually see where the mother and father are in jail and the children are in DFACS? I've never even thought about that.
Well, there's not that many where both are in jail at the same
Okay.
time. A lot of times, but one or the other, whether it's mom or dad.
But sometimes it is both.
Sometimes it is both. Yeah, unfortunately. But again, we're dealing with misdemeanor cases. Like,
Right.
you know, if you're in there for murder, we're not going to set up a visit with
Right,
your
right,
child.
right.
But if you're in there for doing a DUI, shoplifting, just got a drug problem, got a mental health problem, you're eventually going to get out and go back home. And either you're going to be the parent that that child remembered, or you're going to be a stranger. And this is the beautiful part. In order for that kid to get time to come see mom, he's got to be good at school. In order for her to see her child, she's got to do good in jail. So it's a win-win. They get to visit with each other. We get an inmate that's compliant with us. The school system gets a student that's compliant with them because they want to have that time together. But it's going to take thinking outside the box and not just locking people up and the jail being a dumping ground. And there's so many other things I want to be able to roll out in time to come in future forms of whatever things that I want to do to try to help people stay out of jail or get people rehabilitated and make them productive members of society.
And we need that.
But it's going to take the whole community.
I completely agree with that. We need more involvement from our churches, our nonprofits, our collaboration between our nonprofits, all the organizations, all the governments coming together to really move us in the right direction. And there's so many positive things going on in our community.
Absolutely.
And so it's just that next step to be able to achieve more. I want to ask you about drugs in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Your stance on pot or marijuana and what you're seeing with fentanyl. And is there more publicity that needs to be done with fentanyl?
Absolutely. Fentanyl is killing people every day. I don't know how many deaths, because you wouldn't know until you did the toxicology report with the crime lab that they actually died of fentanyl poisoning. But it's killing people. On my very road where I live, we had a young lady overdose on fentanyl. And I responded to the scene along with my deputies. Kendall, it took 9 doses of Narcan to bring her back around to keep her from dying.
Wow.
9. And
Well, is it thankful that y'all were there?
Oh, thank God we were there. You know, but that wasn't the first time she's tried this. This has happened. They tell me a piece of fentanyl as big as a grain of salt can kill you. And people roll the dice and play with that. And I don't understand it. It's like Russian roulette. Every time you take some fentanyl, you spin that cylinder in the gun and point it at your head and pull the trigger. And if it don't go off, you live to tell about it another day. So fentanyl is just, it's terrible. And it's going to take a collaborative effort, too, to deal with that. It just can't be law enforcement go out and go to every house in the county and search every house and find out who's got it. As long as there's a demand, there's going to be some drugs.
Well, there's been multiple deaths associated with fentanyl. Not that from what I understand, again, this is hearsay, is that they knew they were taking fentanyl. It was mixed in something else they were taking, and they died from it.
Exactly.
But then there was no publicity afterwards, and I understand families, wanting to keep their loved one and information private. But how can we have publicity in looking at the number of deaths that we've had and bringing it to the forefront so more people really realize the dangers of it?
Well, we've got to get on Facebook. I guess Facebook is our biggest outlet now from anything else. And just say how dangerous it is. When we go to schools and talk to our kids, we've got SROs in every middle school and the high schools now. We got them in all but 2 elementary schools in the county. I want our SROs to reach out to our children. I believe we got to start young. We got to teach our children the dangers of it. Used to, we didn't buckle up. And there was a big campaign about buckling up, safety. And now if you get in the car with your kids, they'll remind you to buckle up. So we've got to start young with our kids and teach them the dangers of it. And we do a good job with our junior deputy program that Stuart Smith does in 4th and 3rd grade, because I used to teach in 3rd grade. But not just that, our SROs that are in the school to remind them. But we've got to put the message out there. And again, it's got to be a community thing. The churches have got to tell people the dangers of it. Rehabs have. Civic groups have got to put the message out there that you can die and will die. It's just a matter of time before you overdose.
I wish we had more time. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes for you to tell the community why they should vote for you. James. And with anything else that you want to address, you can go ahead and do that now.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank y'all for letting me come and speak to y'all. I bring to you 30 years of experience. I started in the jail. I was a supervisor in the jail. I taught the jailers. Then I went to the police academy. I've been a deputy, a sergeant in patrol, lieutenant in patrol. I've been the captain over administration. I've been the public information officer. I'm a state certified instructor. I have a dual certification in corrections. I was a jail major. I ran the jail. I was a chief deputy in charge of hiring and firing and doing the budget. Then in 2012, I ran for sheriff and was fortunate enough to be elected and have served 12 years. I mean, not 2012. Yes, it was 2000. I've served 12 years as your sheriff, and it's been an honor every day to serve you. I know that it's a leadership position, but it's also a position of service. I never take that lightly. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. And I live by that daily. And I'd be honored to have your vote on April the 21st as you go to the polls to pick your new sheriff or to reelect me, which would be a great honor. Thank you.
Well, James, thank you so much for being with us today. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Absolutely. Thank you.